Welcome to Forbidden Planet TV. And today it's my privilege to be joined by authors, comic book writers, KPerkins, who wrote that epic run on Supergirl for DC. Perkins also worked on Batwoman, on Superwoman, some really great books. And Melo Brown, who worked on a show that we're very closely associated with here at Titan. He was a writer on American Gods. And anybody goes way back with Titan or indeed watches this channel knows that Gaiman is a good friend of ours and somebody who's been very involved in the history of this store and indeed the history of Titan Comics and Titan Books. It is lovely to meet you both. How are you?
Great to meet you too.
Likewise, pretty good.
Excellent. We're here, of course, to talk about the book that you're writing for my colleagues at Titan Comics, which is Blade Runner Origins. I almost called it Blade Runner Oranges then. Must have been all that conversation off camera about Los Angeles, I guess. All those orange groves that don't exist anymore. Yeah, Blade Runner Origins, which is a companion title to the very successful Blade Runner 2029 and Blade Runner 2019 books that are written by my pal Mike Johnson. And guys, again, thank you for joining me. The book is published, by the way, issue 1 of Blade Runner Origins comes out on the 24th of February. Yes. And you can pre-order a special Forbidden Planet edition of issue 1 from the links attached to this video. And you should also be able to, if anything's in the back catalogue of these guys is available, you'll be able to get that there too. So guys, how did you both meet and start working with each other? And how did you both come to Blade Runner? How did you first discover it?
So I worked with Mike Johnson on our Supergirl titles, on DC Supergirl title.
That was a great book, by the way, mate. It was fantastic. I loved it. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was really fun to work with him, and we really gelled. And he started writing Blade Runner, and when the opportunity for another book came up, he's like, yeah, I think you should write on this. And so we started talking and conceiving the characters, and Mike wanted to focus on 2029. So I said, well, there's only one person I would like to write on this with. If I were to write with a writing partner that isn't Mike, and that's the incomparable Melo Brown. So, and he's amazing. We met on a show called Calls that was being created for Apple TV. And when we met, it was like looking into a mirror of sorts. I was like, are you my new best friend? I think you are.
That's excellent. Melo, how about yourself?
Yeah, actually, I was brought into American Gods by Michael Green, who we all know now as the writer for Blade Runner 2049, as well as like pretty much is still overseeing so much of this franchise going forward, including these books. And when he brought me into American Gods with Brian Fuller, a lot of that was just like, hey, we heard you are big technology hacker man in terms of a lot of things that you enjoy and you write about already, and we would love for you to focus on like the villains of the franchise. And a lot of that was just like diving into to LA the first week and being like, we can have this villain represent net neutrality, blah blah blah, and just kind of like going nuts with it. And instead of them being like, okay, that's a lot. Michael Green kind of just like kept, like mentoring me and showing me more and moving me forward, and got very lucky to kind of like have him also talk to me a little bit on the side about this project, but mainly Perkins is everything in terms of what kind of like brought me into the Blade Runner world. There's a lot of things that I've always wanted to explore about like further about cyberpunk, And she was just like, we need to do this. Like we need to ask those questions. We need to have a lot of fun and kind of create something new and exciting in the corners of Blade Runner that we haven't seen before. And it's impossible for me to say no to that.
That's amazing. That's such an interesting answer, mate. And it's funny, you name checked a few people. Michael Green, of course, who we've worked a lot with on the Blade Runner books, or as I say, you know, the if only he was more successful, Michael Green. And then also Brian Fuller, who's he's an old friend of Titans actually, and we've had him on we've published a bunch of stuff with him over the years. We had him on the booth at San Diego, or it might be New York Comic Con about 2 or 3 years ago. I'm not kidding. It's the craziest the booth has ever been for a signing. And we got mobbed and we had to shut all the aisles down around us. And with all these hardcore Brian Fuller fans, because that man has a massive fan base and they are rabid, you know, pleasantly rabid, not infectiously rabid, but they are rabid nonetheless. Yeah, rabid, you know, whichever way. I'm from Liverpool, so I say it that way. So guys, when did you first actually, both of you, encounter Blade Runner? What was the first? I take it the original movie was the first one you saw. I'm wondering when you first happened upon it and what the circumstances were.
I can say personally, it was actually just you know, like when I was a kid, like obviously the Blade Runner franchise had already started having its impact on pop culture before I was, you know, even even coherent enough to realize what was happening. So really, like by osmosis, I was able to see things like Tiny Toons even had a Blade Runner episode, and like even like I was a big anime kid, still am, and there was a show I watched called Bubblegum Crisis, which was just like we just kind of like want to secretly hide ourselves into a Blade Runner universe, but just have it starring all women kind of thing. And then my dad was just like, well, this all comes from a certain place. And it was kind of cool going back to the original Blade Runner and seeing exactly where the platform for this is, and that like how powerful this franchise is in terms of it is a very specific thing, while at the same time it is opening up a door for so many people, like the things that I mentioned, to interpret it in different ways. Because when you're dealing with like this is what the future looks like, everyone wants an opportunity to speak about some part of their culture that they exist in it, and having the opportunity to kind of like even look at Blade Runner from that point of view while watching the original really hit me. And so Cyberpunk has been my love ever since.
Yeah. All right. How about yourself, Perkins?
I grew up in a very big nerd family. And my older brother and my stepdad were are like really into movies and love Ridley Scott. And so when my mom married my stepdad, he really opened up my world to more sci-fi stuff. And I think I was like 12 or 13 when I saw Blade Runner for the first time. And it was just so amazing to me, this whole other world and this perception of something that could very well exist in our future. And it was just so intoxicating for me at the time. And since then, you know, I've just been consuming Blade Runner content, just so deeply intrigued by the world. And then when the opportunity came to participate in and help build out that reality, that universe and reality even more, I said absolutely. And Melo and I, when we were talking about what we wanted to do with it, we had all these questions. We see all these people and different parts of LA in the various films, but like we wanted to know, what are those people doing? What are the other areas of Blade Runner look like? So that's what we wanted to do specifically with this book, is focusing on those characters and on those areas of LA that we don't see a whole ton of in the films.
Well, that's the perfect moment to segue into me asking you, can you break down, without any spoilers, of course, what the what the premise of Blade Runner Origins is and how the series begins?
Yeah, a lot of what we know as the Blade Runner unit is that it is a reactionary kind of tool that's being used to prevent an issue that we now know could be very dangerous, very chaotic, and it would set the world on fire if the Blade Runners initially weren't there. There would be a level of change that many characters would love and many characters would hate. But before they existed, what was that world like? What was the events that caused the need for a Blade Runner, if you know what I mean, without digging too deep into that particular subject? And how did that affect all of LA when they realized what was happening, that a brand new species was born, that there's an entirely new sentient population that is experiencing self-actualization. Having the opportunity to kind of show exactly what happens before a Blade Runner even exists has been a hell of a ride, and and it's one of the most intense and action-filled projects that I've ever been a part of, and so yeah.
Fantastic. So your protagonist in the series is Detective Cal Moreau, right? So what can you tell us about Moreau? How does he differ from the other Titan Blade Runner Ash, who's in the 2019 and 2029 books? Yeah, what can you fill us in on about that character?
Yeah, in regards to Cal himself, Cal is first I want to take a look at the other Blade Runners really quick. If we actually notice something about them, they have each Blade Runner that we've seen so far, as they near the end of their arc, they always dip further into rebellion anywhere than where they started. They started to look at the system and reject it, which is, it puts the punk in cyberpunk, you know? And where our main character actually is starting, he's already pretty there. in terms of the systems he's involved in. We're going to see, even in the opening pages, shout out if you've seen the preview pages that have been released, we'll see his time in the military, which is pretty new for the franchise in some respects, as well as also seeing his position in the LAPD, which is a system that he doesn't necessarily want to be part of. And we're going to see what happens when he kind of when he starts to realize things about himself, and he starts to realize things about this world, but more importantly, what the world is turning into. He has to make a strong decision as to what role he wants to play into that and why.
That's very interesting. So this has been Forbidden Planet TV, and you have been watching the creative team of Blade Runner Origins, KPerkins and Melo Brown. Thanks so much for joining us today, guys.
Bye.
Thank you so much for having us.
And we'll have a second interview coming up very soon. Take care. If you're enjoying watching Forbidden Planet TV and you're enjoying watching us talk to the world's most interesting and accomplished filmmakers, authors, artists, musicians, creators, subscribe right here. See you soon.